It is a gorgeous 90-degree Friday afternoon here in Southern California. What's going on, guys? Good mic work back at you to predict tomorrow's Elimination Chamber. Let me tell you guys, I hope you are ready for a whole lot of my bald ass because you're about to get me for 4 straight days. A lot of stuff going on. We're here for the predictions. We got a watch along tomorrow, watch along Sunday, and we will be here after Raw on Monday for a Raw review because I think that will mark really the official final road to WrestleMania with no other obstacles in front of us, and we should get a pretty clear picture of what WWE has got planned for at least a majority of the big matches at WrestleMania, hopefully including what Brock Lesnar will be doing, because I found it absolutely absurd that nobody came out there to confront him on Monday night and throw their hat in the ring to be his, I guess, mystery opponent or open challenge opponent for WrestleMania. That has got to happen on Monday's Raw this coming Monday, because if it does not, it just makes the entire roster look like a bunch of fucking chumps. So hopefully Monday we'll have a lot to discuss in terms of Raw, Elimination Chamber fallout, and all that stuff. What we're going to do today is predict the Chamber, but before we do, I want to roll through some wrestling news, and we will touch a little bit on Wednesday's Dynamite. Now, I did not find this week's Dynamite nearly as good as the past 2 weeks. I thought the last 2 Dynamites were really good. This week was okay, but I didn't really enjoy the MJF and Hangman segment because I thought it was kind of pointless. And also, we had a pretty devastating injury as well on Dynamite. So maybe not as strong of a show as they have been doing, but a couple of things noteworthy that we are going to talk about in terms of Dynamite. Then we will predict all, I guess, 5 matches on Elimination Chamber. We've got the 4 big ones. And then, of course, we have who's coming out of the box. And we may have gotten some hints on who's coming out of that box today based on a certain someone that is insinuating that he is free and clear from AEW. So we will talk about who I believe will be in the box, and I will save that for the predictions. But we're going to open up with some AJ Styles news. I also want to talk about the Bronson Reed injury. We'll touch on the Darby Allin Uber incident from yesterday, and we'll run through some Dynamite results a little bit, recap what happened there, and then we will jump into our Elimination Chamber predictions. I expect this to be probably an hour and a half long podcast here, and then I've got to go to work, and then I am off for 4 days. So I'm excited to have a nice big chunk of time off after tonight. And like I said, it's going to be a big weekend here on the channel. So I'll say hello to everybody in the chat real quick, and then I'll let you guys know what we have planned for tomorrow and for Sunday. And then we'll dive into the news and whatnot. It's good to see everybody who was here. I know it's a Friday afternoon. Friday afternoons are weird. We will have this podcast done before SmackDown airs tonight. We will also run through what's on tap for SmackDown this evening. And then we will get up on out of here. And then you guys are going to get me for a whole bunch of hours tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. So do me a favor. If you are here, drop a thumbs up down below. If you're hanging out in the chat, drop me a comment. If you're watching this on demand, drop a comment below and give me your predictions to what you think is going to happen at Elimination Chamber. We're kind of doing these predictions last minute as the Chamber is tomorrow, but I want to get these predictions in so we can continue the charity predictions that we're going to do at the end of the year and try to count these matches. Now, the 4 matches are going to be difficult for me to predict because, you know, the Chamber, especially the men's, I think could go a million different ways. So we will talk about all of that here in just a minute. It is good to see our friends like Melissa is in the house. We got Zane G, Mab, Garrett Osborne, Jim K, Rodrigo, Spartan Sprinkles. We've got Red Raven Rucker. Good to see William Cullen, David Brown, Brian Spencer, and a big hello to my boy, Tom Talks Rubbish. Please go subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish YouTube channel. Great interviews there with a lot of sexy people like myself and others. So if you want to check out some really good interview content, Tom is the man for that. He interviews a lot of great people, and I've been privileged enough to be on that channel. And I've got another special appearance coming up. I'm going to save that until it's official, but I'm going to be appearing somewhere else pretty soon, and it's kind of a big one. So I'll let you guys know what's going on there once that is officialized, as they like to say. Good to see Ryan Adams in the house. Also, Luke McAllister, appreciate that 10. Hey, Greg, life's been crazy, but glad to be back. Excited for the Chamber tomorrow and love your thumbnail for WrestleMania 23, if you know what I mean. Luke, I'm glad you are here since it's been a while, and thank you so much for that donation there. And the Chamber is going to be fun. We're going to be here watching it tomorrow, and we have our watch-along set for Sunday, and I'm going to let you guys know about that in 1 second. Good to see Chase H25 in here as well. We got $5 in from Spartan Sprinkles. Thanks, dude. Mount Rushmore of Week 1 tone-deaf gimmick ideas. Silverback Mark Henry, Bob Holly's Holocaust. Club Kamazaki, or Club Kamikaze, and the RTC Salute. I think that might even tread beyond tone deaf gimmicks. Holy crap. Yeah, that would be some stuff that they would definitely do probably in the late 90s. Couple of those might have found their way into ECW, depending on the situation. But yeah, those are wild, man. Denny Downbad, Jacob, also good to see you. We got Ricky Zalvadar, Sonic Plays, everybody else chiming in. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Happy Friday and happy Elimination Chamber weekend, as we are now heading into the busiest season here on the channel because, like I said, a big chunk of podcasts and videos and watch-alongs come in here in the next few days. And then it's into WrestleMania season, and I'm starting to work on some of the special videos, some of the countdowns, some of the special watch-alongs, some of the members-only stuff, a lot of stuff between now and when WrestleMania airs in late April. So keep a lookout for all of that. Now, tomorrow, we are going to be here all day. We're going to be watching the Elimination Chamber, and then we are going to stick around and review the show. That is usually the plan for pay-per-views, so we will go live tomorrow just a couple of minutes before the main show starts. So we'll be up here live at about 6:50 Eastern, 3:50 Pacific, about 10 minutes before the show goes live. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. So that'll be a lot of hours here of streaming. And then on Sunday, we are back for our classic watch-alongs, and this week is a big one. It's one that we have not yet done, and that is WrestleMania 23. I think WrestleMania 23 and WrestleMania 1 are the only WrestleManias of the first, I think, 24 that we haven't gotten to, but I think we need to do 25, 26, and 27 kind of in the future. And also, one of the things we're going to be doing on Sundays after this WrestleMania 23 watch-along is we're going to do some Vault watch-alongs and maybe a selection of the greatest WrestleMania matches and anything that's pretty much available on YouTube that we can watch individually in terms of individual matches. So we're going to do a lot of weeks like that, plus some full WrestleMania watch-throughs. And this coming Sunday is WrestleMania 23. Now, we will be live about an hour earlier or 1 hour earlier than we normally are. Normally, it's 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. This Sunday, it's going to be 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. This Sunday, it's going to be 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. We're going to be an hour earlier since WrestleMania 23 is an over 3-hour show. It's nearly 4 hours long, so we'll get a little bit of an earlier start so I don't keep you guys here all damn night long. And then I don't have a thumbnail up or a link up for it yet, but we will be here, like I said, Monday after Raw. But tomorrow's watch-along for Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania 23's watch-along, the links are already up on the channel right now, so make sure you join us all weekend long. And I think I can stop boring you guys to death now. Why don't we jump into some wrestling news after I thank Spartan Sprinkles for $5 more. Wrestlers have to stop doing uncatchable moonsaults on the floor. Their leg joints take all of the force. It hurts and looks like shit. Probably referencing the unfortunate Penelope Ford injury on Wednesday night, and that does suck. But, I mean, those type of spots can be annoying when they take so long to set up. It's not an AEW problem. It's not a WWE problem. It's a pro wrestling problem. And you can see it really, really glaring in WWE and sometimes AEW too. Those big top rope spots, a lot of times it's a moonsault. And when all the wrestlers are down there just waiting for an hour and a half to catch you, it just looks like shit. I think the setup looks just as bad as the execution. But also, you got to catch these people. And if you don't, sometimes injuries can happen. And that's what we saw on Wednesday night, which is really unfortunate because poor Penelope just came back from an injury. So she is probably going to be out again with what I think is a broken ankle. So anyway, we'll get into that in just a couple of minutes. Let's start off with some AJ Styles news. As we saw on Monday night, we were here to watch it together. We stuck around for a review. AJ Styles WWE held their big AJ Styles tribute to close the show. There was a lot of TNA talent present for that, like Kazarian and P.D. Williams and Abyss. We saw Abyss and Undertaker briefly standing side by side during the AJ tribute. So AJ cut his promo, took his gloves off, said that he was actually retired. They had booted out Gunther from the building earlier on in the night, and I was still kind of wondering, I'm like, is anything going to happen? But then at the very end, out comes The Undertaker, and it's not registering to me what he's doing. I mean, we saw at WrestlePalooza where he comes out and in a very wholesome moment announces Stephanie for the Hall of Fame this year, which I'd almost forgotten he had done. because I was wondering, how come we haven't had any inductees announced yet? And I forgot about Stephanie all the way back in September. So Undertaker comes out again, and I'm thinking more along the lines of Ric Flair in 2008. Taker was the last one to come out and shake his hand. He's just simply doing the same for AJ. And then he makes the big announcement that AJ will be inducted into this year's WWE Hall of Fame class, which was just so wonderful and so nice. And AJ had a nice little send-off right there in Atlanta. I wasn't sure. I mean, I was like 80% sure this was a retirement, but we had heard the TNA talks. I never really thought AEW was a possibility. That really felt like a stretch for me. I didn't see how it would possibly work out for either party for him to go there. So I really wasn't worried about the AEW stuff, but I was curious if he was going to maybe go have a run in TNA before the year is done. But once The Undertaker came out and announced him for the Hall of Fame, it felt pretty final. Well, we learned this week that it is final. AJ Styles was hanging out with his buddies, Gallows and Anderson, who were also on Raw, by the way, on the Talkin' Shop podcast. And he talked about how fans wanted him to go to AEW. And he even referenced or acknowledged the fact that some fans are saying, oh, WWE put him in the Hall of Fame, so he won't go to AEW. And he said, no, that's not the case. I'm a grown man. I'm 49 years old. I make my own decision. It's my decision to retire. I'm hurt. I'm a mess. It's time. I want to retire. I'm done. Perfect little 10-year block in WWE, Rumble to Rumble, and I'm done. And he is not leaving WWE. As a matter of fact, he is signing on. I don't know if he signed a new contract yet or he plans to or whatever, but he basically says he is still going to be working with WWE, which is what we expected and is why I didn't expect him to go to AEW. Because I think we already kind of knew that there was a really good chance that AJ would stick around at WWE as maybe a coach, an agent, or an NXT coach or something like that in the future. And if he went to AEW, he would just basically be passing through there just to go right back to WWE. And I'm like, I don't see how that benefits Tony Khan or the company at all, just for him to come in, say hello, and then leave and go right back to your competition. So we kind of already had a feeling that that was a really big possibility because AJ loves the business and he's one of the best to ever do it, if not the best. He's the only guy I feel like who you can really legitimately put his name next to Shawn Michaels. You know, you think about the NBA. Who can you really legitimately put next to Michael, to Jordan? Kobe. Some people would say LeBron. Some people say no fucking way. I say Kobe for sure. LeBron maybe, but still, those are both maybes. You know, and AJ, you know, his name looks spectacular right next to Shawn Michaels, you know, and I think I said this on Monday night that I think AJ's the last guy that will be really properly compared to Shawn Michaels. The next guy that comes around, that puts together that perfect combination of athleticism and the ability to have a good fucking match with anybody or anything, that person is going to be compared to AJ Styles from now on, not Shawn Michaels. And athleticism is through the roof across the board in the business, but you know, you still got to put together, you know, the complete package and be able to not only understand wrestling, but be able to have good matches with all different shapes and sizes of opponents. And AJ proved he can do that just like Shawn did, if not better. So I think AJ has really made his mark, and going into the Hall of Fame, you know what? If he's happy with this closure, then I'm happy for it as well. And I'm really happy, to be honest, that he's not going into the Hall of Fame in Saudi Arabia. I thought for sure it would be next year. So Taker coming out and announcing him for the Hall of Fame this year, I like that. That's nice. And that's a wrap on AJ Styles' career. I'm glad we got to watch that together. So we've had Goldberg, John Cena, AJ Styles. We're going to have Rey Mysterio retiring soon. Chris Jericho is going to retire soon. We got a big amount of names here that are starting to retire one after the other. Don't forget about Samoa Joe and maybe a couple other people I can't think of. Dustin maybe. That at some point they're going to have their last match, and it feels like we're getting a lot of legends from yesterday retiring in a rapid pace. So AJ is the latest on the list. He is going to be going into this year's WWE Hall of Fame, and he will be sticking around in the WWE in some sort of a trainer, coach, mentor capacity. We don't know if he'll be an agent on the main roster or if they want to send him to NXT. Could you imagine being a WWE recruit and going into NXT to be trained by Shawn Michaels and AJ Styles? Imagine if CM Punk shows up there too, and you got that trio, or maybe Shawn retires and he leaves it up to AJ and Punk. AJ focusing more on the athleticism, you know, match quality stuff, Punk focusing on the characters and the promos. Oh my God. You got some world-class fucking coaches and people teaching the next generation what to do down there. Oh my God. So if AJ lands there, if he's on the main roster, if he's going to join Bobby Roode or Hurricane Helms or anything like that as an agent, maybe we'll see him as one of the security guards, or not security guards, but one of the officials running out there to do a pull-apart brawl or something. AJ in a suit. We'll have to see. But AJ Styles will not be unretiring, coming out of retirement to go wrestle in TNA and win the championship and have a whole nother retirement run outside of the company that's going to encompass TNA and New Japan and Mexico and AEW. Not happening. AJ is done, and I could not be happier for him because he really does seem to be genuinely okay with this. He's given himself the proper closure. He's happy to be at home now, be a dad, be out of the ring, and he's made his decision. So just wanted to offer that update to AJ Styles and wish him all the best in his non-wrestling career. Can't wait to see what he does. Also on Monday night, we had some unfortunate news. Triple H played with fire with this bullshit. Triple H doing that kayfabe injury to Rollins. If you believe in karma, it has bit Triple H right in the ass. I mean, he did a fake injury angle to try to make some waves and make a big story, and he wound up losing every member of the Vision to real, actual injuries. After he did the pretend injury to Rollins, he got for real injured. Then Braun Breaker gets for real injured, and now on Monday, we see Bronson Reed doing a dive to save a near fall, and he tears his fucking biceps, which means he's going to have surgery on that, and he's out indefinitely. We might not see him until Survivor Series or later. So that sucks. And now the Vision is a mess. And there has been a lot of reports all week long from several different news sites that, and this is just Captain Obvious stuff. That's why I'm not quoting anybody directly here, but a number of the websites have reported what we already know. Nobody had to report this to us. You could see this. Bronson Reed's injury is going to cause massive, heavy rewrites to the Masked Man angle. Who knows how many rewrites they have already done because of what happened to Breaker and whatnot. So now with Reed going down, not only did he go down, but the report is, I still don't know if this is confirmed or not, but we did hear that apparently he was supposed to win that match. I had my doubts about that. I thought the Masked Man was just going to screw all the Vision guys. So it would be weird for the Masked Man to screw two of them, but then allow Bronson Reed to get in the chamber. I thought they would just all get screwed by the Masked Man. So I expected the Masked Man to come out and screw Reed, but instead it sounds like he was supposed to win. They got him the hell out of there, called an audible, and Jay went to the top, hit a splash, and I think it was El Grande, right? And qualified for the match. So now Jay is in, not Bronson Reed. And of course now Bronson is out, and you have to wonder what the point of the Vision is at this point. We talked about this on Monday night. If I was Paul Heyman, I would create an interim faction, because the Vision was named after Seth Rollins, and it's already weird enough that you were keeping it that name without him. But now the people that was associated with Rollins are gone as well. So there is no Vision, essentially. And I think Paul Heyman should create an alternate interim faction called the Dangerous Alliance, and just make it Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and Brock, and maybe add one more person and try to take that group into WrestleMania, because WWE already, as it is, doesn't have their shit together. So, creatively. So, this is only going to make things worse. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the Chamber later, is that, they don't know what Drew is going to do yet. Like, they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. I think they're still working it all out, which does not really fill me with a lot of confidence in the plans for WrestleMania. I think WWE is just going to throw some shit together and hope for the best. But, we've heard about creative frustrations on the WWE Championship side of things, and what Drew is going to do and how many people he is going to face. And if he is going to face more than one person, exactly how you get to that. Because a lot of fans, myself included, have been kind of under this assumption that Drew is going to be defending the title in a 3 or 4-way. I still believe that, because Punk and Roman is the Night 2 main event. I feel like making the other title a multi-man just makes more sense. So that has felt like what's going to happen the whole time. And Drew is setting the stage for that by interrupting all of these matches and just randomly attacking Randy Orton. And so something's going to happen in that chamber that's probably going to lead to multiple people challenging, but I still don't think WWE really knows. So how the hell am I supposed to predict this if they don't even know what's happening? Just got to guess, I guess. So the Reed injury just adds to an already very, very discombobulated creative situation in WWE. It already feels like they're just not really sure what they want to do. They don't know what they want to do with Drew. They don't know what they want to do with Jade. And these are things that you should have already long since figured out by now, and they just didn't. So all the best to Bronson Reed and all the best to the WWE creative monkeys who are going to attempt to rework this angle with the Masked Man. And I don't know how they're going to do that. I think the Masked Man might have to transfer his energy and attention over maybe to Lesnar and whatnot, or I don't know. And if the Masked Man was going to be Seth Rollins and it was going to be him and Breaker, we don't even know. Like, we don't know. I mean, and if Seth is under the mask, then, he's going to have to come out from under that mask if he wants to have a WrestleMania match. He's probably going to have to do that early, but from his own mouth, it's up to the doctors. He doesn't know yet if he's going to be cleared. So we have a lot of unanswered plans. And if WWE already doesn't have, their shit together creatively as it is, these injuries are only making things worse. And this WrestleMania could just be a complete fucking disaster. Let's hope that they can land on their feet and all of this confusion, frustration, and discombobulation results in a great WrestleMania, because we're going to be here to watch it together, and I don't want to watch a crappy show. And also, of course, best of luck to Bronson Reed and his recovery. It absolutely sucks. Just heartbreaking. Just gutting, Fucking sucks. Did you guys see this this shit from yesterday involving Darby Allin? So Darby, for some reason, decides to do an interview, like a live stream interview on some YouTube channel. I don't know whose channel it was. I didn't catch it. But he's doing an interview, and he's doing it from his phone in the back of an Uber. If I was invited a wrestler onto my channel to do an interview and he's like walking down the street, I'm like, can you take this a little more seriously, please? Or getting in an Uber, that might annoy me. I'm like, this is going to be shitty content. I don't want to post this. But they do this like live stream with Darby, and he's in the back of an Uber doing the interview, but he's got no earbuds on or anything. And the interview is on speaker. Well, he's got a real fucking nutcase for a driver, because this easily triggered little bitch absolutely freaks the fuck out. I can understand if you're a driver and that's a little bit annoying back there. Even if you want to say, dude, can you not do that or turn it off, put your earbuds in? That's one thing, or just try to gut it out and just not enjoy the ride and just take him where he needs to be and just be done with it. But this guy just flips and starts yelling at him. A lot of people are thinking this is a skit or it was staged. Darby's crazy. I don't know, but doesn't this seem like it's right in line with shit that usually happens to Darby? I had a couple people on social media messaging me, boy, wait till you see how the rest of wrestling works. I'm like, do you think I'm fucking stupid? Like, this is right in line with something that would happen to Darby. The motherfucker's been hit by a bus. Like, he's climbed Mount Everest. He does weird shit. So if he's in the back of an Uber doing an interview and some freak boy yells at him, I don't see how I would just automatically assume that that's some sort of staged bullshit. Maybe it is. Maybe it was a skit. Maybe the whole thing was just for fun. But that driver seemed legitimately emotionally unstable, did not seem like he was acting at all. And, you think about those like videos you see in like grocery stores. I think there's one famous one of like this lady in Walmart at the self-checkout, and she is just losing her shit. And she's like red face, get away from me. And nobody's even near her. And she's just losing it. People lose it today. Everybody's fucking medicated. Everybody's out of their damn minds today, in the modern world. And everybody is just fucking triggered by everything. And watching this emotionally unstable, screaming bitch of a man lose his mind on Darby Allin and boot him out right in the middle of the goddamn interstate or freeway, wherever the hell they were, is just like weird. And when you watch the video, you can see the video of the guy screaming. And I'm like, what is wrong with people? That guy should not be allowed to drive other humans around. I understand if what Darby was doing in the backseat might be annoying. You are an Uber driver. I would assume you've had a lot of annoying things happen in your backseat. If that's the type of job you want to have, drive strangers around the fucking city all damn day for no money, then you're going to have to understand you're going to have some wackos in your back seat. Like, you can't lose your shit over everything. So, I mean, a lot of people think the driver had a reason to be pissed. Sure. I might not like it if he's back there doing that, but to freak out to the level that the dude did, I almost hope that this is all staged and it's all a skit, because I don't like the idea of unstable people like that being behind the wheel of vehicles. So if this is staged, if this is some sort of a skit, awesome, because I'd rather it be that than that man behind the wheel of the car, screaming like a fucking child over that. People, get a hold of yourselves emotionally, please. Is it just my generation that got their shit together? I don't know. But my God, just the screaming and yelling and losing their mind, just being triggered by everything. I don't get it. I don't get that mentality. I feel bad that people just really seem to live frustrating lives. And I hope that feller has a little bit better luck in the future with whoever he's driving around. And hopefully, maybe he can call a counselor or talk to somebody, because I think he needs it. In the meantime, Darby Allin continuing to get himself involved in these bizarre situations that only Darby Allin can get involved in. So let me know if you guys know anything about this. Was it revealed that it was some big skit or bit? Like what the hell was that? But anyway, Darby getting kicked out of an Uber, one of the funniest stories of the week. All right, let's talk about this Wednesday's Dynamite just a little. Not going to get into a lot of it. Like I said at the beginning of the show here, I did not like this Dynamite nearly as much as I liked the past 2 weeks' Dynamites, both of which I thought were terrific. And this week's I thought was a little weak, and I think one of the weakest segments was what they did with MJF and Hangman, because they had already established the stipulation last week when Hangman told MJF it's going to be Texas Death. So now we've reconvened here in the ring. You've got MJF and Hangman, and MJF now pitches this absurd idea to flip a coin. I got a quarter, or he asks fans for a quarter. I got a quarter, a coin. We'll flip the coin. Tails, it's your stipulation. And if it's heads, it's my stipulation. And MJF says his stipulation is a one-way no disqualification match. Meaning if Hangman so much looks at a steel chair, he's going to get disqualified, where MJF can do whatever the fuck he wants. That sounds fair. So he flips the coin. It lands on heads. He wins. Yay. He gets his coin and he leaves. And then Hangman's like, wait a minute. Let me see the coin. He shows the coin to reveal that it's a two-headed coin. And then Shivani, who's in the ring moderating this whole thing, he goes, wait a minute, I just got a word from Tony Khan that it is now official. MJF versus Hangman Page at Revolution, Texas Death. So it is going to be a Texas Death match at Revolution, but my issue with this is we already knew that. It was made last week. So they're not going to change it into this one-way DQ match. That would just be silly, although I do expect MJF to retain the title, at least right now, at Revolution. So Hangman, I think that stipulation is still intact of him never being able to challenge for the title again. Did they realize that was dumb and scrap it, or is that still a thing? So I think that's still in play as well, which means they're going to have to figure out in the future a way to undo that if Hangman loses like we expect him to at Revolution. So I kind of thought the Hangman and MJF stuff was a little lame. I like Brody King coming out there and prying the coin out of his hand. That was funny and everything, but the whole segment in general just kind of seemed a little bit silly. The other major thing that happened on Dynamite, we had a tag team title match with the Babes of Wrath defending against Megabad. So it's Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne getting the title shot here. And Penelope goes up to the top rope during this match to go for a top rope moonsault onto Willow and Harley Cameron. And when she comes down, she wasn't caught very well, and it looks like she broke her ankle. She got injured on that spot, and the ref and the trainers were down there with her. She stayed out of the match for the rest of the way, pretty much. So did Harley Cameron, and it was mostly Willow and Megan mixing it up in there one-on-one until I think they had to call an audible here on the finish. They just had Lena Cross come in and cause the disqualification. So it was a very kind of flat, wonky little finish there with a disqualification that was not originally the finish. So they had to change things up there, and now the fear is that Penelope Ford has, in fact, suffered a broken ankle, which sucks because she just came back from from an injury. So all the best to Penelope, just with everything going on with, the Bronson Reed stuff and now Penelope Ford. You just hate to see about these injuries, to see these injuries happen. They suck, at least with Mega Bad. I think they can stay mostly intact because, to be honest, I like the physical appearance of Megan Bayne and Lena Cross much better than Megan and Penelope. Megan and Lena, they're both tall, badass women. They can be AEW's version of Nia Jax and Lash Legend, who are two big, tall women in WWE. And so I might actually be down to see them be a team since Penelope is out. But just like with Bronson Reed, all the best to Penelope. I know that sucks. And what sucks even more is that, I don't know, I haven't checked today, but if you go to Harley Cameron's social media, if you go to her Twitter account, she has deactivated her Twitter account. Why did she deactivate her Twitter account? For the same reason that every wrestler deactivates their Twitter account, because when something happens in the ring, you have a bunch of physically inadequate little bitches who don't know jack shit, can't tell their ass from a hole in the ground, all of a sudden are wrestling experts, and they got on social media to harass and bully and bother Harley Cameron, blaming her for the injury. These are people that is the day manager at fucking 7-Eleven, acting like they're a wrestling trainer, telling people what they're doing right and wrong, and just being so unbelievably stupid, mean-spirited, unlikable, and douchey. And they forced her right off the app. Now, she will be back. I've no doubt this happens to a lot of wrestlers, and I'm glad this might just be a little thing in the wrestling community. They might just be saying, hey, when the fuck boys come after you, just deactivate for 5 days. Don't even engage with these nameless, faceless, little, angry fucks. They're all the same. They all behave the same. They all share the same brain. They all have identical timelines, and they just have the exact same type of way of doing things online and harassing people, and you really can't tell one from the 6 million other little fucks that are out there doing this shit. So they forced her right off the app, but I think once everything kind of calms down, she will be back. But that is the age we're living in now. If there is a botch, think of the things that have happened to Nia Jax in the past, to Ridge Holland, to these people that have had unfortunate things happen in the ring, and then they're getting death threats from a bunch of little fucks. Probably been fired from multiple jobs, no friends, just obscenely unlikable in every possible way, dumb as ever-loving fuck. And boy, they have a lot to say, don't they, about wrestling. And they especially have a lot to say about women, and not only how they wrestle, but how they look. These are boys that'll never touch a tit. They will die virgins, but boy, they got a lot to say about a woman's appearance. It's really weird how that works. So if you were one of the people that were shaming Harley Cameron, shame on you, you dumb little twerp. Get a fucking life. And Harley, all the best to you. Nobody blames you. Accidents happen. They always happen. Injuries are a regular thing. Sometimes it's somebody's fault. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a freak accident. Sometimes it's everybody's fault. You just don't know. This is a very dangerous line of work. People get banged up, and fans need to understand that. Not everything is as easy as your 7-Eleven job. Some people actually have to take risks out there and then suffer the consequences publicly if they fuck up. And I think it takes courage to do that. It doesn't take any courage at all to run the fucking gas pump at 7-Eleven, you assholes. So stop doing that shit. Thunder Rosa is back. She is getting a championship match against Tekla this Wednesday on Dynamite. So Rosa came back. She had a match last Saturday on Collision, beat Julia Hart, and now she's getting a title match already. She was out 8 months. So I don't expect her to win. Tekla came out on Collision last week and had a really good promo from the rafters, or from the seats up there on Thunder Rosa. So Rosa gets a title shot next week. We also had Moxley. He defeated El Clone. Swerve cut a nice, good heel promo. Some people weren't sure if what he did to Kenny last Wednesday was a heel turn. Yeah, it was. And he pretty much confirmed that in his promo there, putting the roster on notice, and he is coming after that AEW championship as well. Although I think most people feel like MJF is going to hang on to it until Ospreay comes back. I have my doubts on that, but that seems to be the belief. And they could very well be right. Gabe Kidd defeated Orange Cassidy on Wednesday as well. Gabe and Clark Connors put a post-match beatdown on OC until Darby came down to make the save. Cool to see Darby and Orange Cassidy as a team. That's fun. Kevin, we had a Mansoor sighting on Dynamite. He was there to lose to a very good Kevin Knight, who I love. And we had we also had Brody King over Mark Davis, and the very fun Mile High Madness match, which was very Anarchy in the Arena-esque. There was a lot of split screens, cut shots, and a lot to try to keep track of at once. They were playing music for a little while during this match, and it was Jack Perry, the Young Bucks, and the Rascals defeating the Demand and FTR. Jack Perry pinning Ricochet for the finish there, and I'm sure that's probably going to lead to a championship match, probably at Revolution between those two, I would assume. Now, the Revolution card still, I believe, only has 3 matches. MJF and Hangman, Mox and Takeshita, and the Young Bucks versus FTR. Probably going to get Ricochet and Jungle. And probably a women's title match if Statlander is good to go. If she's cleared, maybe we'll get that put together next week, and she will get a return match against Tekla. We will see. But I'm expecting probably 5 or 6 more matches to be added to that card. And so far, it looks like only 3. So, yeah, there you go. That is pretty much all I had to discuss in terms of the news and Dynamite and what's happening there. We will be here, of course, to watch Revolution together. If I don't go to the show, I'm still not totally sure. Might actually drive up to LA and go to this thing, waiting to see on Elizabeth and her surgery and a couple of other things. But that one's still hanging up over my head. But I might drive up to Crypto Arena and hit up Revolution. I was eyeballing some ringside seats that were only about $600 that I almost jumped on the other day, but I'd hate to have to, if I couldn't go, to, have to sell those. That would suck. Anyway. Still may or may not go to Revolution. And yeah, that is pretty much it for the news. We're going to jump into the predictions here in a minute. Let me just see if there's any other supers to answer before we do that. There's one from Garrett. Thank you so much, bro, for that 5. I believe you could now call Logan Paul and Austin Theory the Limited Vision. They should get like little glasses and a walking cane. Maybe a CNI dog, because they're lacking some vision, aren't they? My God. Poor Logan, who's pretty much full-time now, and he's just involved in this storyline that's been plagued by injuries. Chris Ludek, you're jealous of my San Diego weather. It is hot as fuck today. I got my studio curtain open. I've got a fan on me. It's just hot. It's hot today. It was 90. It is currently 86, according to my computer, but it's been about 88 or 90 all day long today, which is hot. Hot. It's going to be hot at the beach, too, when I go down there and go to work tonight. So, yeah, feels like summer's here. It's still February. Chris has got 5 more. Do you think Karrion Kross is joining the Vision to take Bronson's spot? If he does, they'll start approaching Don Callis family numbers. That depends on how WWE wants to manage this. Now, if WWE is looking to keep the Vision going, but they've got to replace some members. I mean, Kross would be a good person to call up. I'm sure he would be happy to come back if Triple H phoned him up and be like, hey, we need you in the Vision. But Kross wasn't, I just don't see it. I don't think they're going to call him, to be honest. Kross could come out of the box. Maybe he's coming out of the box. I don't know. Maybe Kross is coming back. But I just don't feel it. I don't feel it. But I could definitely be wrong. All right, well, I guess it's time for Elimination Chamber predictions, isn't it? Let's get, where's my predictions overlay there? We'll do that there. It's time for predictions, and we are going to start with who's in the box. We got 4 matches and who's in the box. So we gotta predict and talk about who's in the box. I've talked extensively over the past couple of weeks about who is in the box. Initially, my first belief was that it would be Chris Jericho because, Jericho kind of does countdown shit, and he always comes back in weird ways, and the box is old school, and I could see Jericho coming out of the box because I think that would be fun. But then we learned that his contract apparently was frozen by AEW, or it's not quite up yet, or whatever the case is. It doesn't look like he's contractually free of AEW quite yet. So even though I'm skeptical about that, because nobody knows in these reports about his contract, nobody really knew when it was up. So if we know it's not up, that doesn't really help us. It only helps us if you know when it's up. Because if it's not up at the time of that reporting and nobody knows when it's up, it could be up the next fucking day. So this might all be tied in. Jericho might be free and clear the day before or something like that. I don't know. So I'm not convinced just based on that report that it's not Chris Jericho. And I mentioned on Monday one cool little hint that I noticed when Adam Pearce was looking at the clipboard when Aldis had that thing delivered back to him. He said, my name is misspelled, but oh well, and he just kind of mentioned that. Why would you script that line of dialogue? Why would you have Adam Pearce say, my name is misspelled? Wouldn't that be considered a hint? Was that really just a throwaway line in the script? I feel like that was put in there for a reason. So if Pierce's name was spelled wrong, first thing I think of is Mitchell Cole, Kirk Angel, Vivian Garcia, Mike Henry, Nick Foley, Vance McMahon, Santino as Rob Grisham's Tricky William, so Santino could come out of the box. But Jericho has that name thing already. Well, today we have learned via Danhausen's social media, he is heavily implying that he is no longer under contract to AEW. He's tweeted some GIFs and some photos hinting that he is free and he has freedom. He's got his booking email up for bookings to contact him. So if he's accepting bookings, is he going to be able to go to WWE? If he's signed there, they're not going to let him take any bookings. So the fact that he's got bookings available now, I don't know. But it looks like he is free and clear from AEW according to him. However, he is, as of today, I believe, still on the roster page. So AEW has usually been really good about taking people off there the minute their contract is up. Maybe they're hanging around, maybe they got Danhausen up. They haven't gotten around to it yet. I don't know. But it sounds like from Danhausen, he can do whatever he wants because he's tweeting that. So that opens up him as a very big possibility to be in the box. But what I have been saying over and over, and I said pretty insistently on Monday, is that this is the go-home pay-per-view to WrestleMania. This is a 4-match card along with this box segment. So they are making this essentially your 5th match. And I've always felt that if Danhausen comes into the WWE, that he will come in the exact same way he came into AEW. You just pull him out from under the ring on Raw. It might have been a pay-per-view when he was pulled out of the ring. I don't remember. But it was Adam Cole who pulled him out from under the ring, right? And he was just there. Put a curse on Adam Cole, and it worked. So just do the same thing in WWE. Pull him out from under the ring. Boom, he's there. And if they're going to have this box segment on the pay-per-view no less, I feel like whoever is in there needs to be a bigger name than him. So I essentially said, like, when it comes to the box segment, a couple of things matter here. Number one, where the box segment is on the card. Is that going to be the last thing we see before the main event? Is it going to be in between the 2 chamber matches, or is it going to be halfway through the card? Is it going to be after the first 2 matches and before the last 2? Where's it going to be? And where is it going to be? Is Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis going to open this thing backstage? If they open it backstage, I can see Danhausen coming out. But if they bring this damn thing in the ring, remember when they had that thing with Sting and they revealed it to be Sting in the ring, If they bring this thing in the ring and you've got Pearce and Aldis in there and it's this big thing in the United Center, it's got to be Jericho coming out of that. Or it's got to be somebody bigger than Danhausen. I've seen a couple of people mention Demon Finn Balor. Now, so that means the box segment would have to come before the Punk and Balor match. And if you bring the box in the ring and then you open it to reveal the Demon, okay, that's a cool moment, I guess. But he's going to lose to CM Punk, most people are expecting. So unless the Demon wins the championship and then goes on to defend it against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and then what, Punk just misses Mania? That doesn't sound like a possibility to me either. So, between Danhausen, Chris Jericho, the Demon, and Gobbledygooker Jr., who the fuck is coming out of this crate, this mystery crate? And right now, Danhausen feels like the betting odds favorite, but I just question, this is a pay-per-view segment, a WWE pay-per-view or PLE segment. Is Danhausen really a big enough person to come out of that box in a segment like this? That's why if it's like a little throwaway, quick segment that's 30 seconds long backstage, sure, Danhausen out of the box. But if this thing is in the ring, or if this thing is on the stage, or it's any sort of a bigger production, then Danhausen would be I think Danhausen would get a pop. Chicago and Pepsi Phil loves Danhausen, but it would be like, oh, like you brought him in the ring for that? You debuted Danhausen on Elimination Chamber? You know, you got somebody mentioned you got Tony D'Angelo down there in NXT since, that's been there since the day Biden got elected, and here Danhausen walks right in. He's on the main roster. So I don't know how that would all work, but Danhausen does feel pretty likely, but I can't let go of the fact that this is on a PLE or a pay-per-view, big WWE pay-per-view before WrestleMania with only 4 matches on the card on a show that last year dropped one of the biggest angles in wrestling history with the John Cena heel turn. To now have Danhausen come out would just be weird. So I need to predict who is in the box. I need to predict who's in the box. This might be a cop-out, but I got to stick with it because it's not about predicting who's in the box. You also have to predict when this segment is going to air. And I think, or on the show, like where it's going to land. So I think that also is dependent on who's in the box. Like it depends on where they put it. It would be hard to predict unless you knew where this thing was taking place. So my belief is that if it's backstage, it's Danhausen. And if it's in the ring, I'm sticking with my Jericho pick. I'm sticking with it. Now, AEW, I feel like if Jericho was free and clear from them contractually, they would take him off the roster page. They would not want to help this surprise out in any way. So if Jericho remains on the roster page in past midnight tonight, then I feel like it's not going to be him. Because if it's going to be him and AEW knows it, they're going to pull off him from the roster page to spoil it. And then the whole internet will go crazy. Jericho is no longer on the AEW roster page. And then the cat is out of the bag. Tony Khan's not going to keep him on there. Jericho's no longer under contract to me, but I'm going to keep him on my roster page so he can have a bigger surprise on WWE's pay-per-view. So, it's not feeling like Jericho to me either. It's not feeling like Jericho or Danhausen, to be honest with you. But I got to predict somebody. So, like I said, Danhausen if it's backstage, Jericho if it's in the ring, but I still need to predict which one of those two I think it will be. I'm going to go Danhausen just because of the odds. I feel like the odds are more in that favor. I just question, is Danhausen a big enough name to have a PLE segment? It's not like the old days when you have 9 matches on a show anymore. There's just 4. So making this whole thing about Danhausen, is he a big enough name? Unless WWE's got mega plans for him, unless WWE looks at his time in AEW as a huge flop, and they're like, we're going to make this guy a huge star. Okay, but Danhausen is a comedy character, and he's never going to be main eventing WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. So I just don't know. I actually would prefer it be Jericho, to be honest, and then just have Danhausen come out on Raw or come out some other time. But I think I'm going to predict Danhausen just because I feel like that's where the odds are right now. But if it's not Danhausen and not Jericho, I mean, what other names? What other realistic names could be popping out of that box? It's not going to be like Joe Hendry or some sort of an NXT call-up. That would make no sense. It's got to be a big deal if they're popping out of the box. Is somebody back from injury earlier than we expect? Seth Rollins, Bianca Belair. Why would Bianca need to come out of a box? I think Bianca could just come back. So who's in there? What's going on? Let me know. Kevin Owens? Kevin Owens. That's a good point. I forgot about Kevin Owens. It could definitely be him. Are we sure it's even a person? What if it's a PLE announcement for the future? Maybe. Let's hope not. Unless somebody's in there to read the announcement, unless it's Vince. WrestleMania is coming back to Chicago. Chicago apparently is finally building a new football stadium in northern Indiana. Because I've always said Chicago will never see a WrestleMania because Soldier Field's fucking freezing. And it's just too cold there. So the only way Chicago's ever going to get a Mania is if they build a football stadium with a roof. And apparently they're doing that, but it's not even going to be in Chicago. It's going to be in Indiana. Okay? But that's where apparently the Bears might be playing in the future, which means a WrestleMania will be sort of coming back to Chicago. But I don't know what they would announce here, I don't know. Just a future PLE announcement? I don't think so. So Kevin Owens is another good option there. So I got to go Danhausen, Jericho, Kevin Owens, Gobbledygooker Jr., Demon Finn Balor, I don't know who else, man, or somebody that's been out injured. Who knows? But I think I got to go Danhausen. But I'm telling you, if that box is in the center of the ring, I'm changing my pick to Jericho. So we'll see tomorrow. We're going to be watching it together. I'm excited. We have AJ Lee challenging. Nope, that's not the right one. Where is it? There she is. AJ. There's AJ and Becky. Where'd you go? So AJ Lee is going to be challenging Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship. AJ Lee, I would best describe her as extremely part-time. There's full-time, there's part-time, and then there's extremely part-time. AJ is more part-time than Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns could ever dream of being. Those guys are full-time compared to her. So I don't know about this. AJ Lee, does she, I hate saying this because so many wrestling fans say it, does she need the Intercontinental Championship? I say she doesn't, but this is also a match in her hometown too, in Chicago. She's going to have the advantage, home field for that, obviously. This issue has been going on since WrestlePalooza. And you have to win. AJ Lee even put the Intercontinental title on at one point and danced around the fucking ring with it, didn't she? So it feels like her winning the Intercontinental title is almost an inevitability. But I don't like the idea of a part-timer winning the Intercontinental title either. So I think the way this has to go down is this is a long, and plus on top of that, the promo and the segment between the two of them, the last two segments on Raw have been a steaming bucket of liquid shit. My God. Awful. 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 So my initial thought was that, okay, AJ will probably win the championship at Elimination Chamber, but maybe she'll drop it back to Becky at WrestleMania because AJ can't have some sort of a long run unless she wants to come back and just work full time for the next 6 months or whatever, and they want to actually give her a run. But I don't want her winning this belt and then going home and putting the belt in the refrigerator and tweeting a picture of it. Actually, I do want that. I do want that to happen. I think that would be fun. But you get what I'm saying here. You know, it would just be, she'd be winning the championship, great, but then what? So I was thinking if she wins the title, then Becky can go ape shit. You book a rematch at WrestleMania, maybe with a stipulation, and Becky wins the belt back. But WrestleMania is currently almost 2 months away, and we have seen how horrible these segments between the two have been on television. So if we're going to run this back at WrestleMania, that means we've got a bunch of weeks to TV unless AJ sits at home to not build the angle and just Becky out there building the match herself. And AJ's not on TV. Otherwise, if she is and she's champion and she's going to work pretty much full-time through WrestleMania, that'll put her on TV for the next 6-7 weeks to build this next match with Becky Lynch when everything they've done to build their previous match sucked. So do we want 6 or 7 more weeks of AJ and Becky segments on TV? No, we don't. I don't. Do you? I don't. So what the fuck is going to happen here? I think AJ is going to win the title. I'm going to predict AJ Lee to beat Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship. If it goes the other way and Becky wins, then Becky gets the big win in Chicago. That'll, I guess, get some heat, and then you could book a return match for Mania, and AJ wins there. But I don't think I'd rather have AJ. If AJ is going to win the Intercontinental title at either Elimination Chamber or WrestleMania, I prefer Elimination Chamber because she's, like I said, extreme part-time. So she doesn't need to be winning on the grandest stage. Have her win at WrestleMania, give her a match on the grandest stage, but she goes down in that match, and Becky wins back the title. And now Becky Lynch is a 3-time Intercontinental Champion, which is wild since that belt is, what, a year old? So that seems like the most likely option here is to book a return, unless you get people involved. You could see Maxine. You got to remember Maxine helped, or AJ helped Maxine win the Intercontinental Championship, right? So maybe you do something like that. Maybe Maxine comes out if she's not, because apparently she's dead. Natty posted her on Raw, and she just planked on the floor, and I think she's still laying there, Maxine, so hopefully she's all right. But Maxine could come out and return the favor for AJ Lee, or to AJ Lee, helping her win the title. That could then bring out Natty, and you could have all 4 women involved in this finish somehow, and then book the 4-way at WrestleMania. And if you do that, I'm the only person on the planet that seems to like Natalya, and I like her. Maybe that's where she wins the title. So I'd have AJ Lee beat Becky Lynch here, have Maxine and Natalya get involved, and then you do a 4-way between all of them at WrestleMania, and Natty wins the IC title. I know that doesn't sound great, but it's kind of one of the, I'm just thinking about what WWE is going to do creatively, because what I would want to do and what WWE is going to do are just completely different things. So I'm trying to predict and kind of fantasy book these segments using their mentality to do it. So you might say, oh, good mic work, that match sucks. I'm like, hey, it ain't going to be me coming up with it. It's going to be them. So if they do it, don't act like it was my idea. I just think that that's a match they would do. Like thinking the way they think, looking at things the way they look at them. Maybe that's what they do because, like I said, if it's another AJ and Becky one-on-one match, even if you put a really fun stip, what stip could you put in that would really make you be able to sit through 7 or 8 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks of build after we've already had a few months of stuff between the two of them. So maybe a 4-way is better. Feels like we got a minimum of probably 3 multi-man or multi-woman championship matches coming to us at WrestleMania. But yeah, I'm going to go AJ Lee to win the title, and maybe she just drops it back at WrestleMania and she just has a really quick run with the IC, because a lot of the IC title runs have been quick. Haven't seen Lyra Valkyria in a while. She was a big part of everything last year, and I think after them zip ties, man, I feel like that really did her in. So I don't know if she's going to be involved in Mania this year at all, or she didn't get hurt, did she? I don't even know where Lyra is. I haven't seen her in a while. So anyway, if anybody's seen Lyra, tell her I said what's up. But yeah, I'm going to go AJ Lee over Becky Lynch. WWE World Championship on the line. Champion Chick Magnet Punk, Pepsi Phil, taking on Finn Balor for the title. Of course, these guys had the match in Belfast on Raw a few weeks back. Punk won. It was becoming clear that Balor was not done with Punk, and they were going to book a return match here at the Elimination Chamber for the title. Now, Punk, of course, he's got Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania, which at this point feels like it's clearly going to be the Night 2 match. And that makes this match pretty predictable, which is why I think we might see something fun or possibly even surprising in this match. What I'm hoping we don't see is what I feel like is going to happen. It's the story they've been telling on TV, and it's going to be a really, really simple finish. Balor wants to go out there and win the championship on his own and prove that he can beat CM Punk on his own. He has told his stablemates in the Judgment Day this very thing. He told JD and his 33-pound head, do not interfere in my match at Elimination Chamber. He said the same thing to the Pussy Slayer, Dominic Mysterio. So he told his boys, don't come out during the match. I want to do it by myself, which means they're going to come out during the match and probably fuck him over. Either intentionally or unintentionally, probably unintentionally. That's going to lead to him flipping out, probably possibly even the full crumbling of the Judgment Day altogether, especially since we don't know what's going on with Liv and Raquel yet either. So that, I think, could lead to your Balor and Dominic match at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental title, which Balor would then win as a babyface, but then he's just Intercontinental Champion again, and he's already been that. And we've heard about major pushes for Balor. We heard about a major push for Balor last year that never materialized, so maybe this year it actually will. And he beats Dom at WrestleMania, and then maybe he goes on to win the title later on in the year as a babyface. And, maybe you could keep the Dom stuff going, because I've said for several months now that Dominic is my pick to win this year's Money in the Bank. I feel like he is a fucking shoo-in. So I've got Dominic winning the Money in the Bank. So if Balor were to beat Dom for the IC title, and then maybe find himself getting another title shot somehow against one of the champions, maybe he wins King of the Ring or something and he gets a title shot at SummerSlam and then wins the title, and then Dominic, after winning the Money in the Bank, cashes in on Balor. I don't know. Something like that. But for the purposes of this match, it's got to be CM Punk walking out the champion, because I don't really want that Roman Reigns match messed with unless WWE wants to really shock us. You know, last year we got Rhea Ripley dropping the belt at the last minute going into WrestleMania, which made everything really weird. Maybe Balor could actually beat Punk, and maybe it could go the other way. Like, I feel like the obvious finish is what I just mentioned. Judgment Day coming out against the wishes of Finn Balor and costing him the match. They could also come out against the wishes of Finn Balor and help him win the match. So here's something I wouldn't be opposed to if WWE just wants to keep us on our toes. You know, this is only for those purposes. But you have the Judgment Day come out, maybe while Balor is compromised or he's hurt or he's taken a bump on the outside of the ring and he doesn't see them. JD, Dominic hit the ring. They fuck up Punk. Maybe the ref is down too, or maybe he's attending to Balor, and nobody sees any of this. Balor gets back in the ring and notices Punk is down, goes and hits the coup de Gracie, pins him, and wins the title, and has no idea that his Judgment Day friends helped him out until maybe he sees the replay on the Tron. Or maybe they do the thing where he doesn't see until the next day and he confronts him on Raw. But maybe right after the match, as he's celebrating in front of the Chicago crowd, a replay is playing on the Tron, and he's got the belt and he sees it. And all of a sudden, all this joy is kind of like, oh, I wanted to do it on my own. I didn't do it on my own. And then there's like remorse. And then on Monday, he comes out to the ring and he calls out CM Punk. I won this belt. Yeah, I beat you, but I didn't beat you fair and square like I wanted to. So how about we do a rematch right now? One-on-one, get Pierce out here, ban everybody from the building, ban Judgment Day from ringside. If anybody from Judgment Day shows up at ringside, they are suspended indefinitely. Dominic, if you show up, I'm stripping you of your IC title and that other one that belongs to AAA. You're no longer going to be a champion. You are fucking fired. Just make some sort of stip like that. Punk and Balor, return match on Raw. Punk wins the belt back. And there you go. Maybe they could do that. But I feel like WWE never wants to have any fun. You know, whenever you have a good, fun idea that just feels like an absolute can't miss, WWE, it's not even on WWE's radar. You know, they're not going to do that. But that is one thing you could do to make this match maybe less predictable, is keep us on our toes. Ripley lost the belt last year. She was never able to get it back, but maybe Punk loses the title, and for 24 hours, we're panicking about WrestleMania now. I guess it's going to be Balor and Roman. And then out comes Balor the next night. We get the return match. Punk wins the belt back to become, a 3-time World Heavyweight Champion since coming back? I would be fine with that. So I'm still going to predict Punk to retain, but I would love it if they threw a scenario like that at us. I think that would be a lot of fun. All right, that leaves us now with the women's, or the 2 chamber matches. We're going to start with the women's chamber. This one is a little difficult to predict because we still don't know what Jade Cargill is going to do at WrestleMania, and I don't think WWE does either. Now, I had been saying over my past couple of podcasts when we were looking at the field, I'm like, if WWE, if their intent or their goal is to put the best looking card on WrestleMania as possible, the best looking match you could do with the women involved in that chamber would be Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill. They've had a couple of teases on screen, but not as much as they've teased Cargill and Charlotte. And Charlotte, of course, lost her qualifier last week, and then all week long on social media, she's been doing the gimmick where she's fine. I'm fine with my loss. So they keep harping on that, which makes me think this isn't quite over yet. So that kind of moves, to me anyway, Alexa Bliss up to the top of the possibilities here, because if Alexa Bliss wins the match, then she's got the match with Cargill, and you could have Charlotte outwardly supporting her, but inside it's eating away at her, and maybe there's something going on there. There's also the possibility of Jade defending in a 3-way, but that would be horrible. If Jade Cargill and Drew McIntyre both wind up defending their championships in a 3-way, my question is to you, what the fuck is the Elimination Chamber for then? because the winners of both did not get one-on-one matches versus the champions at WrestleMania. It's a multi-person deal. So how can you in the future use the chamber matches to determine a challenger if both matches have got funny business and both result in multiple wrestler title matches anyway? Kind of renders the Elimination Chamber pointless. So I feel like Drew or Jade will have a multi-challenger defense at WrestleMania, but not both. You can't do both. You can't. So when it comes to Jade, if she's going to wrestle just one woman and one woman only, when you look at that field, they're all involved in tag teams except for Tiffany and Kiana James. We're ruling out Kiana James. Just put a big old X through her face. She ain't winning. Asuka's probably not winning either, one half of the Kabukis. Alexa probably isn't winning, although a lot of fans are thinking that she will win and then Charlotte will get factored in. Don't forget, Charlotte got added to that Ronda Rousey and Becky match years ago. So if she finds her way in somehow, I don't know how you would storyline write that, because Charlotte just simply lost her qualifier. She didn't get fucked over or nothing. She's lost. So I think her worming her way in would be lame. So I don't think it's going to be Alexa Bliss. We've got Asuka, of course, one half of the Kabukis. I think her and Kyrie are going to be doing stuff, so her getting the title shot would just be weird. Raquel Rodriguez, however, could be a sleeper pick, because they still have not addressed everything that went on between her and Liv Morgan. And I like the idea that somebody brought up, although I don't know how this fits into the rules. I think the rules here are the winner of the chamber challenges Jade Cargill, because she's the champion left without a challenger. Let's say for example, Raquel Rodriguez wins. You know how we had Charlotte winning the Rumble a few years back and she went to NXT to challenge the NXT champion? This is a question I have for you guys, could Raquel win the chamber? And instead of facing Jade, she wants Stephanie Vaquer and saying, hey, I want to cash in my title shot, not against Jade Cargill. I want to make this match a three-way. And she makes a three-way between Liv, Stephanie, and herself, which means Cargill's opponent would still have to be figured out on SmackDown somehow leading up to WrestleMania. So Rodriguez is an option and a possibility. She's not as far down on the list as I thought she was earlier. To me, it was just down to Tiffany or Ripley. But I think you can maybe add Rodriguez in as a possibility because of the Liv stuff. Tiffany Stratton, of course, she was the one that lost to Jade Cargill, right? So having Tiffany come back to Mania, beat Cargill for the title, great. But Tiffany, I like her. She just doesn't do a lot for me. I think she's good in the ring. I think she definitely has a future, a lot of years ahead of her. Doesn't do a whole lot for me right now outside of, a few moments here or there where she's impressed me. Obviously, she's good in the ring. Her athleticism is fun to watch. Last year, coming out of the Barbie box was one of my favorite WrestleMania entrances of all time. So there are things about Tiffany to like. I just don't know if Tiffany and Jade is WrestleMania worthy, So to me, the match that looks the best is Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill. But tonight, on SmackDown, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky are defending their tag team titles against Nia Jax and Lash Legend. So what I'm hoping happens tonight is we get a title change. I hope tonight on SmackDown, Rhea and Io lose the tag team championships, because it would be hard to envision Ripley losing on SmackDown and then turning right around and losing in the chamber, unless something happens in the title loss tonight between her and Io. Maybe that's something they could do. Maybe Io has a mistake, miscue in the match, makes some sort of mistake that ultimately costs her team the tag team titles. She now feels guilty about that. During the chamber, she sees an opportunity to help her friend Ripley and make up for the mega botch she had the night before, comes into the ring and botches again, accidentally hits Rhea, causing her to get eliminated. Then things blow up between the two, and you've got Rhea Ripley and Io Sky at WrestleMania. You could do that. But I think it would be more fun if Io and Ripley dropped the titles tonight, and then Ripley won the chamber tomorrow. But where does that leave poor Io? Io arguably is the best women's pro wrestler in the entire world right now. That woman cannot be left off of WrestleMania. She's got to be involved in something major. And right now, since she's not in the chamber, I can't see her getting a title match. Maybe she gets a U.S. title match. Remember when they were supposed to have Io and Julia on SmackDown on Friday? Maybe there was a bigger reason why they pulled that match. Maybe that is WrestleMania. So you've now, instead of having Rhea and Io one-on-one, they're both going after championships. And I said the next time Rhea Ripley and Io Sky face, and when Rhea Ripley inevitably gets that elusive victory over Io Sky, it's going to be done in a title match. She will be champion and successfully defend against Io. That's what I think they should do. So maybe they have Ripley and Io tonight lose the tag team titles. Tomorrow, Rhea Ripley wins the Elimination Chamber. She's going on to WrestleMania now to face Jade Cargill. And now she's essentially kind of on SmackDown. Well, her and Io are BFFs, so maybe Io kind of follows her over to SmackDown. Then they hold some big United States #1 contenders match, which Io Sky wins. And now you got Io and Julia for the U.S. title, and you've got Ripley and Jade for the WWE women's title. That's kind of how I would do it right now. I feel like that's one of the better kind of paths that you could take with everybody, because otherwise, Jade versus Tiffany, Jade versus Alexa, I don't feel those. I feel like Jade and Rhea is kind of like a Houston, we have a problem almost type of match, and that's the one I would do. I feel like that's the best match to give us at WrestleMania. But it depends on what WWE plans for Jade. If they want Jade, if their plan is for Jade's run with the title to extend beyond Mania, then I wouldn't put her in the ring with Ripley. I'm only putting her in the ring with Ripley if Ripley's winning the title. So if that's not the plan, then maybe it's Alexa, maybe it's Tiffany, and Jade just retains. Or maybe it's Tiffany winning the belt back. All those are possibilities. But at the end of the day, even though I'm not confident at all about this pick, I got to go Rhea Ripley. Just because if I'm Triple H and Road Dogg and the other fuckwads in that creative room back there, and we're looking at all the things, I feel like half the room is going to be raising their hands for Rhea Ripley, you know? So I'm going Ripley to win the women's Elimination Chamber. But like I said, if she does, what do a lot of those other women do? What does Alexa do? What does Charlotte do? What does Tiffany Stratton do? Another thing I could see maybe is a multi-woman for the U.S. Maybe it's Julia, Io, and Tiffany. I don't know. Tiffany could be left out in the cold of the title picture here if she doesn't win. Where if Rhea doesn't win, I think she can still do stuff at WrestleMania, like defend the tags if she doesn't drop them tonight. Or face Io one-on-one, perhaps. Or, you know, it's Rhea and Io against Alexa and Charlotte and the Kabukis, I guess, and a big multi-tag team affair with a bunch of women. Maybe, but I feel like Ripley and Io Sky are the two top women essentially in the company, and for them to be relegated to an 8-woman tag team title match just doesn't feel like a proper enough place for them at WrestleMania. Just drop my pen. So please let me know in the chat who you think is winning the chamber. I got to go with Rhea Ripley. The men's chamber ain't any easier to predict because we've heard a lot of reports this week about WWE and what's going on creatively with this thing and what the plans are for Drew McIntyre and his championship at WrestleMania. So, like we've been saying for a while now, it feels like a likely option for McIntyre is to work with multiple challengers. I still feel like that's a very big possibility, even though we've heard reports of a lot of creative frustration, not only from WWE backstage, but the talent involved in this stuff, that WWE still doesn't really know what direction to go in for McIntyre, and apparently McIntyre and Cody one-on-one is still heavily discussed, but people feel like that could be a predictable match to have, and I agree. Which is why I think it should be a multiple-man thing. And if it was one-on-one, if I'm Cody and Drew, I'm standing up saying we need to be the Night 2 main event. You know, and then you got some dissension there between the main event competitors. If you make it a multi-man and Drew's got 2 or 3 challengers, that helps justify making that match the Night 1 main event and then no feelings are hurt. So I just feel like that's the way to go. But what a lot of people keep bringing up, and it's a valid point, is that if it's going to be a multi-man match, how do you get there? I have no idea, but we have seen some pretty big hints and indications that that's the direction they're going in, with Jacob being screwed over, and also on SmackDown, we saw McIntyre come out and blast Randy Orton in the face with the belt. Why did he do that? We still have not found out who attacked Jacob Fatu. And McIntyre's been adamant that he didn't do it. He goes, if I did it, I'd admit it. I would not shy away from this. I wouldn't pretend I didn't do it. I would be here bragging about it. So McIntyre didn't do it, and I believe him. So we still have to have, if WWE even cares anymore, we still have to have that reveal. I feel like the Elimination Chamber could be a good place to do that reveal. So many different possibilities here. Let me read you this really brief little update from Fightful Select yesterday about this situation. Or this is from WrestleVotes Radio on Fightful Select, I should say, and I quote, Cody Rhodes has been feuding with Drew and is involved in the WWE Elimination Chamber and is expected to be involved in the title scenario. However, WrestleVotes on Fightful reports that Jacob Fatu has a lot of support within WWE Creative for involvement in the title scene for WrestleMania. It was also noted that there are a number of departments that are facing deadlines to prepare WrestleMania materials, and there's panic in some of those departments in Stamford for fear they're falling behind preparing those promotional materials. Jacob is not in the chamber this weekend, so he would need to be factored in another way. So there's been a lot of chatter about this. So if Drew is going to wind up facing three guys, which now it feels like it's going to be three guys. It's going to be a four-way, not a three-way. Originally, we were thinking Drew, Cody, Jacob, maybe Drew, Cody, Jacob, Sammy. But based on what we saw on Friday, the attack on Randy Orton and him being in the chamber, I think he's going to be factored into this as well. So maybe this is what happens here. If you're going to do a multi-man match, how do you add those other players? You would think something major has got to go down in the chamber, like Drew McIntyre showing up and fucking everything up to where Aldis has no choice but to make him face everybody. That seems like the obvious way to do it. And if that's going to happen, who winds up winning in that scenario? You know, in that scenario, it's really just Cody and Orton. So it would have to be one of them winning, but the other one having a case to get in the match. So I feel like Cody, being the babyface that he is, I don't think he needs to be the one that has to find his way into the match. Like McIntyre screws him, and then he does the Ripley thing from last year where he's desperate to try to get involved in this match, and then he finally just gets in somehow. I feel like it would be better for Cody's character if he just wins the match and the other guys get added to the match. Well, how do you do that? Here's one idea. So, like I said, Jacob's attacker needs to be revealed. And since Drew is adamant that he didn't do it, and I don't feel it's quite time for a Cody heel turn yet, we're getting there, but I don't think yet. So I don't think it's Cody either. And certainly it wouldn't be Tricky William or Javon or Jay or LA Knight either. At least probably not. But Randy Orton, to me, seems like he would have to be the guy now, the one that did it. Because didn't Jacob get, like, teeth knocked out? I feel like he'd have to kick somebody to knock that many teeth out. And what is Randy Orton's favorite move? The punt. Maybe he punted Jacob, and Jacob has no idea. So here's one idea I have for how you could make this a four-way. So you actually have Cody Rhodes winning. Maybe it comes to what I definitely feel like needs to happen is Cody and Randy need to be the final two. I also feel like Cody would be the best one to win this match, and then you add the other guys in. So there's my first revelation right there. I'm predicting Cody Rhodes to win, but I'm not predicting Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre one-on-one at WrestleMania. So if it's not going to be Drew and Cody one-on-one, how do you get to the multi-man match? Here's what I would do. Or here's one idea. Maybe not what I would do, but just a general idea outline, and you guys can tweak it and make it pretty for yourselves. I would have Cody and Orton be the final two. You can have Drew out there causing problems. You can do whatever you want, have a lot of other shit going on. But ultimately, it's down to Cody and Randy. Cody wins. Beats Randy Orton. Maybe Randy has got him, remember how Cody took advantage of Sami? Or took advantage of the situation with Sami Zayn, when all that was going down, and took advantage of a situation to win the match. And he told Sami, hey, I take advantage of these situations. You don't. That's why you've never been champion. So we could see Sami Zayn coming out here too and getting involved in that. That's a possibility. I don't think he'll be involved in the title match, but I definitely think he needs to be doing something at WrestleMania. So you could see Sami coming out and being a part of this too. But if we don't, I think it's down to Cody and Randy, and Cody wins. And Cody, I believe, will take advantage of another situation where maybe Randy is distracted, or maybe Randy has Cody beat, but there's an issue with the referee, or maybe the door's open and all sorts of other shit's going on, and he gets screwed. He had Cody beat, but no one was there to count the 3. More things are going on. Drew's in the ring. Sammy's in the ring. Shit's happening. Cody Rhodes takes advantage, hits a Cody cutter or crossroads on Randy Orton, wins the match. And as he's celebrating, Randy Orton, his mentor, his friend, gets up to congratulate him and then brutally turns on him. Viciously turns on Cody Rhodes, attacking him and I mean like beating him down, blood and all. And I think it would be a really good mirror of last year's Elimination Chamber when John Cena turned heel on Cody Rhodes. This year, it's Randy Orton. And maybe WWE can say to themselves, all those mistakes we made last year with John Cena's heel turn that kicked off at the Chamber, we're going to do Randy Orton's heel turn right. Now, we've already seen Randy Orton as a heel 11 times. This will be the 12th. But still, Randy Orton turning heel on Cody at the same show that Cena turned heel on him the previous year, I think would be really fun. And turning heel on him to the degree that he beats the fuck out of Cody so badly that Cody's gone off TV for a while. Then Randy shows up on SmackDown. Oh, by the way, I'm the one that knocked out Jacob Fatu. And I've been reading the WWE handbook, and since Cody Rhodes is clearly unable to compete, and I completely destroyed him, according to the WWE rulebook, we learned this in the 1999 Royal Rumble with Vince McMahon. According to the WWE rulebook, in the Elimination Chamber, in the event that the winner cannot go on to face the champion at WrestleMania, that spot goes to the runner-up. And Aldis is out there. Aldis has no choice. He's handcuffed. It's in the rules. Come on, Aldis. You know the rules. We're never going to see Cody again. I left him laying in a pool of his own blood and piss. He ain't coming back. I get the match now. And then Aldis, out of frustration, says, you know what? All right, fine. But then, you got to remember McIntyre here too. So maybe Aldis, when all that is said and done, he says, all right, you're going to get the title shot against McIntyre, but you're not going to get it alone. Since you attacked Jacob Fatu, you're going to have to contend with him as well. And the title match now for WrestleMania is a triple threat match between Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, and Jacob Fatu. And that's your match. And then like on the go-home SmackDown or the final week or two, I mean, you don't want to keep Cody off TV during WrestleMania season, so this idea isn't going to work, but just humor me. So you keep him off TV for a few weeks. You've got the three-way now booked for WrestleMania. Drew facing the Elimination Chamber runner-up and Jacob Fatu. And then a couple of weeks before Mania, Cody shows back up, healthy and cleared, ready to reclaim his spot. But the contract has already been signed for the three-way match, so now he has to be added. So now it can't be Drew and Cody because Drew's already signed a contract to face two other guys. Cody can now be added to the contract, and that's how you get to the four-way match. That is one way to do it. But I feel like WWE would be way lazier about it and just have Cody win, and then McIntyre continues to wreak havoc, and then they add people to the match or something like that. But I feel like storyline-wise, that would be one way you could do it, although it would kind of take the heat off of Drew if you did the scenario that I just laid out with Randy Orton destroying Cody. Then all the heat's off Drew. Now, Randy's the top heel going into that, and that might be a weird dynamic. I don't know. And you can't have Drew and Orton in cahoots because Drew came out and attacked him last week. So something like what I mentioned, but tweaked up to fit the story might be what they're going to do. But I am pretty confident in the fact, even though, like, I don't know how you get to that. I'm like, well, we've seen it a million times. It's not that hard to figure this out. So people who are having trouble understanding how WWE would get to a multi-man title defense, I think it would be much easier to do it here than it would be for Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill wouldn't make a whole lot of sense at this point to have multiple challengers. Drew would, because of his involvement with all of these challengers, and he's interfering in their matches, actively trying to prevent them from winning. So basically, he wants it to be anybody but Cody or Jacob, and maybe even Randy Orton too, since he attacked him last week. So I got to go Cody to win the chamber, and something happens. Maybe Cody wins. Maybe the whole idea of Randy Orton turning heel doesn't happen, but maybe Cody's victory is suspect. Maybe Cody, like I said, Randy had him beat, or something happened there. And, or, maybe Cody is the ultimate baby face. Maybe that's a caveat to his, or catalyst to his heel turn, is that maybe Cody is a little bit too baby face. Maybe if he wins the Elimination Chamber, but he wins it in a way that's a little bit sketchy, and Randy Orton gets fucked over in the process, and we've seen Jacob Fatu getting fucked over in the process. Maybe Cody offers up to, hey, I wouldn't take offense if I had two other challengers with me. These guys deserve opportunities too. Or maybe it's him that kind of sets this whole thing in motion. He's the one that recommends it, and then it comes back to bite him in the ass. And it's his idea to make this a multi-man thing, and then Drew winds up retaining, and then that kind of leads Cody down the path of evil or something like that. But I feel like if it is a multi-man match at WrestleMania, and I'm expecting it to be, then Drew will win. I think Drew should retain. If he has three challengers, Drew needs to retain. He should not drop the belt in a match like that. So McIntyre, I feel like, is got a pretty good likelihood at this point of retaining the championship at WrestleMania based on how all this is currently looking right now. So just to recap, I think I got Danhausen in the box, although I think Jericho is still an option. I'm not ruling him out yet, even though a lot of people are. I've got AJ Lee over Becky Lynch to win the Intercontinental title. I've got CM Punk retaining over Finn Balor, although I like the idea of Balor winning the title and then dropping it back to Punk on Monday's Raw. I've got Ripley winning the Elimination Chamber for the women. And in the men's chamber, I've got Cody Rhodes. So AJ, Punk, Ripley, Cody, that is a fuckload of baby faces right there. And we might have a baby face coming out of the box as well. Something's up there. Well, we got two heel champions with Jade and Drew. So naturally, those winners of the chamber will probably have to be baby faces. So maybe Becky Lynch is going to retain. Maybe that helps even it out. I'm still going to stick with AJ, but I could see Becky Lynch retaining just to give you a heel victory on the show. Unless they really shock us and they give us Punk dropping the title to Balor. And like I said, maybe winning it back on Monday's Raw. Also, what are the order of these matches going to be? I would assume that the women's chamber would open. Then we would go AJ and Becky. Then we would do the box. Then we would do Balor and Punk, then the men's chamber. If Finn Balor versus CM Punk is going to be the main event, then the men's chamber is first. Men's chamber goes first, is my belief. And then AJ, Becky, then the women's chamber, then Punk and Balor, I guess is how it would go. But I feel like the chamber matches will bookend the show. Women's will open, AJ and Becky next, Punk and Balor after that, and then men's chamber closes. That's kind of what I assume will happen. So anyway, that is the end of my notes and my predictions. So we'll talk to the chat here for a second, see what you guys are saying, and then I got to roll out of here for work. And I think I even need to leave a couple of minutes early because I don't have any gas in my car. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. I'll knock out some of these supers that I missed. Shane McMahon, Big E. It could be a big crate of dude wipes. Kevin Owens. I thought it was Northern Illinois. I thought it was Northern Indiana. I thought I thought the Bears Stadium was going to be in Indiana. That was the big, people were freaking out about it going to Indiana. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's Northern Illinois. I thought it was Northern Indiana. Indiana and Illinois border, right? Chris, my boy, thanks for the $10, bro. Great catch about the misspelling of Adam's name on the box. I think Jericho's contract being frozen is false and done to throw people off. I think it's Triple H who will announce a new era. Oh, my God. If Triple H comes out of that fucking box, no. To just announce a new era that's not really even a new era. Yeah, maybe he will. But yeah, I kind of have my doubts about the Jericho stuff as well, although one thing I'm certain of is that AEW isn't going to do any favors to WWE. So they're not going to play along here and act like Jericho is still with him. Jericho, I think, is the one that probably gave this information to the places that reported it regarding his contract, but didn't really signal when the contract was going to be up. So that's why I still think Jericho is a very likely possibility, because this is on a PLE. Now, if this crate was to be opened backstage on Monday's Raw, then fuck yeah, it's Danhausen. But, you know, this is in the ring. And I've still picked Danhausen just because I'm going on the odds, but I have felt all along it's Jericho. I felt like all along Jericho was in the box, but I guess we will find out how wrong I am in 24 hours. Zane, appreciate the 10, bro. What if it's a red herring and it is Jericho? How Jericho loves to troll people. Exactly. It's if it's Danhausen, he can go straight for the IC title, but what if it's The Rock? Oh my God, we haven't talked about The Rock. Could be The Rock popping out of there. So add him to the list, but why would The Rock pop out? What's the point of that? Rock wants to make an entrance. He doesn't want to come out of a box. It's stuffy in there. Plus, you got to have food and water and all that stuff. So I don't think Rock is hanging out in a box, but I feel like the Jericho story could have been leaked for the exact purpose of throwing us off of this. So I still think Jericho makes more sense than Danhausen, just because this is on a PLE. If this was on a TV, SmackDown or Raw, then maybe Danhausen would make more sense. So I'm skeptical about my own pick. I picked Danhausen only because I feel like I had to, but I still think it's Jericho. We're going to find out. Garrett, thanks for the 5. Charlotte inserts herself into the chamber by attacking Alexa or Kiana, like Edge beating up Kofi. They could maybe do that. I still don't. I didn't like when that happened, because I don't like that rule that people have to qualify for this chamber, but then you can just attack somebody and take their place. I don't like the common sense of that at all. So Charlotte, all of this I'm fine shit could result in her tonight or even tomorrow attacking somebody and getting in. Maybe she attacks Kiana and then she gets in, but how would that work? Can you insert yourself anymore? We have GMs now. We have Aldis and Pierce who run out there any chance they get to lay down the law. How would Aldis allow that? How would he allow her to attack a participant and then take that participant's place? Feels like you'd be punished for that, not rewarded. So it would have to be done in a way that, would make sense. So maybe the only way to do that is to not give Aldis a chance to make a ruling on it. Maybe you wait until the chamber. When Kiana is coming out, she's attacked, Charlotte jumps in the cage and locks herself in the pod. Hey, I'm in here now. It counts. Maybe it's like, didn't Brock do that? What year did that happen? Didn't he literally just come out during a Money in the Bank match and grab the briefcase and win it? Didn't qualify for the match or nothing. What year was that? Did that really happen? Is my memory right on that? And I swear he just walked out and grabbed the briefcase, and then he danced with it like a boombox and then won the title. That 2017 maybe, something like that. WrestleMania 33-ish, somewhere around there. Man, it was annoying. So you could do that. No, the real DJG, that's why I think she could lose. I think Becky, she's lost in 2 straight L's against AJ, but they've been tags. So I feel like she could lose the one-on-one to AJ, but then win the blow-off. That's why I think it would be better for AJ to win here and then Becky win at WrestleMania. But like I said, I don't know if we want another match between Becky and AJ, that we get another 6 or 7 weeks of really terrible in-ring segments between the two. I don't want to sit through that shit. You might add Maxine and Natalya to this, and it might be Becky, AJ, Maxine, and Natalya or Natty for the IC title at WrestleMania. Which, if that's the case, maybe it's Becky winning tomorrow. I don't know. I'm definitely not confident about my predictions, that's for sure. I could get them all right. I could get them all wrong. We'll have to see. But hopefully I'll do okay. 5 more from Zane. What's up, bro? What if it's Danhausen coming out of the box and soon after that gets sent to NXT? I think Danhausen, his character can be on the main roster. He's not going to be in the ring a lot or enough to really need to be in NXT. He's a comedy character. Everybody knows who he is. He's gotten himself over outside of WWE. Whenever he does show up in WWE, he will receive a massive pop. But if they're trying to bring him in as an actual character and to be wrestling regularly on TV, I have a hard time imagining and envisioning Danhausen doing that. So we will be seeing. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for me. I got to get up out of here because I got to go to work, and then I'm going to be off for a whole bunch of days after tonight. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out this afternoon on a Friday right before SmackDown. Enjoy SmackDown tonight. Feel free to tweet me any of the results tonight, or if anything interesting happens, I would love to hear about it. Ryan says Brock knocked Ali off the ladder to win the Money in the Bank. Yeah, so he just showed up. So it's not like that stuff's out of the question. I feel like it would be weird for somebody to attack a chamber participant and take their place. I don't know how that would be allowed, but hell, we've seen it before, right? We've seen it before. All right, guys, take care. Have a great rest of your Friday evening. And don't forget, we will be here tomorrow to watch the Elimination Chamber together, and we will be sticking around after the fact to review it. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll be catching you tomorrow for the Chamber. Peace.